Hey guys, so I've got another build for you, and this is probably what I'll be starting with because, well, some of you guys have mentioned that the shrines from Daughter of Ashabi are gonna be probably the same as the enchantment from Kulgur League, right? So it's a little bit worse than I initially expected, and that means that you're gonna have to be clicking the shrines off of the ground. And since I want to blast and just, not think too much about it, we're going back to our roots. We're going to play Tornado Shot, and this time it's gonna be on the Surfcaster. So Surfcaster is quite nice. It does give us a few things that we like. Movement speed, attack speed, a little bit of damage, right? Reverse chill, which I think I managed to get it right. And well, the other things are okay. Of course, cold damage can shock is also nice, but since we're primarily focusing on the projectiles rather than just one single hit, so the shocks aren't that big. But regardless, for mapping, Tornado Shot as usual is going to be great. For bossing, it's much worse, right? Unless you have giga items with insane investment. But the items that I have here are sort of like mid-budget, right? Like you can probably get all of this for like 20 divines or something like that. I don't know. Maybe on League Start, these things will cost a little bit more. Here's ours generally a little bit expensive on League Start, right? Um, Tamings can also get expensive, but you don't really need them. You can just use normal rings, maybe amethyst rings even for some chaos res, right? Because with these items that I have right now, your chaos res isn't gonna be that great. Of course, as per usual, the items that I have on don't have any resist, so you're just gonna have to fix the resists yourselves. But I also do this so not to confuse people that are maybe a little bit newer to Path of Exile who think that you have to follow the items one to one. But just get resist as per usual. Oh, I forgot to type it in. There we go. This is of course the anoint. And yeah, the build itself is very similar to what I had during the Kulgur League, except of course it was on a Deadeye, so we had to make some adjustments and also make use of the self chill, right? But the tree itself is fairly similar, with the exception of like these and light meaning over here for some cold damage. You also have one free slot. This jewel is obviously just in here to make calculations easier on POB, right? So you're gonna have one free slot, so you can slot in here whatever you want. But other than that, this tree, if you played pretty much any Deadeye character, looks very similar to what you usually have, right? Most of it is kind of self-explanatory. So I don't think I really need to go over the tree too much. One thing though is that, you do want projectile speed on Tornado Shot generally to make it feel better, but it's not mandatory. Like damage-wise, it's not gonna have that big of an impact if you don't have anything on your items. So if you don't have Feathered Quiver and you have like no project speed on your bow, you might wanna skip out on this mastery, right? But this guy is level 96. Of course, this is sort of like mid-game where the Thread of Hopes are already available, right? Like Watcher's Eyes. This Watcher's Eye is pretty good. You're probably not going to be able to get something like this for cheap, but do prioritize the crit chance from Hatred. And the other mod can be like either Grace, avoid hits, any precision mod, double Hatred if you want, some cold damage maybe, whatever. But yeah, so one thing about this build is that we are full cold. And to do that, we do need some convert to either lightning or cold. Well, actually, this isn't the min-max version, so I think I'm at like 83% or something converted. We have 43 here. 40. Okay, so we have 83 to lightning and the rest 20 are converting right into cold. Technically, you do get a little bit more damage if you're converting to lightning, because then it converts to cold. So, any lightning increases that you have also increase the damage a little bit. But I mean, this is also fine. You know, initially just grab both of these, probably path towards these like first thing, and you're probably gonna be leveling with lightning arrow anyway, so you can only just path towards this one. You don't really need the bottom one until you switch to tornado shot, right? But thread of hope over here, as per usual, just good nodes in general, right? Before that, you're probably gonna want to take all of this for the arrow. Probably this as well initially early on, right? And of course, you there's no point playing tornado shot before you actually have some projectiles. So, you know, after you grab this, and then you also have greater multiple projectiles, then you can start playing tornado shot. Before that, you should probably just play lightning arrow, right? But after that, then it's pretty much whatever I have on this tree, just, you know, work towards the items after that. But honestly, there's only one thing that's kind of out there with this build is self chills that we inflict. So I decided that we're going to be using Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice along with Oxium. I think that's how you pronounce it. So this makes it that our, well, from Surfcaster, we can chill ourselves with any damage. So in this case, Soul Sacrifice will be dealing chaos damage to us, and it's fine. And the chill effect on us is going to be based on our energy shield. And, well, to be honest, it doesn't matter how much energy shield you have, but the less the better, because you're going to be chunking your life, because damage goes through your ES, right? So the less energy shield you have, the better. This is the minimum amount, but you know, you might end up with like, if you don't have tamings, you might end up with like a little bit of energy shield in here, but it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be too big of a problem. One thing to take into consideration is that the chaos damage that we deal ourselves has to be above 28% of our energy shield. So if you have too much chaos res, you're gonna need to scale some effect. For example, Ash, Frost, and Storm, right? And maybe a cluster jewel with non-damaging ailments as well, or maybe just take these, right? But as long as you don't have like 75 chaos res, I think you can go as low as like 40% and it's fine. Anything above 40, you're gonna need some effect of non-damaging ailments. So with Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice, we're gonna be dealing ourselves some damage, and of course to cast it, I wanted to automate it. So cast and crit on our Mana Forged Frenzy. So whenever our Mana Forged Frenzy arrows crit, we're gonna be casting Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice, which should be, well, we attack 3 times a second basically with this setup, so we're gonna be casting taking into account our crit chance. You know, we're gonna be casting like 2 out of 3 times, so the chill uptime should be 100%. Earlier, when you don't have as much attack speed, you might be you know, a little bit lacking on the uptime, but later on this should be fine. This unbound ailments thing, so if this works, then you don't need chill effect at all. But if this doesn't work, as this specifically says on enemies, I'm not sure. I read some posts that were explaining the self chills and that unbound ailments works with venopuncture, for example, and golden rule. So I don't know. I'm hoping that this works. So you don't need to scale any effect, but if it doesn't, then you're gonna need to scale a little bit of effect to max out the chill effect. But yeah, this is the setup for our self chill, and of course tornado shot, kind of, you know, normal spore gems, cold penetration, of course, because we are full cold. Auras, hatred, haste, grace, enlighten, makes sense, right? Sniper's mark with mark on hit, life tap, and mirror arrow. So you know, we don't run out of mana when casting these. And I have Flame Dash, of course. If you like Frostblink, you can use Frostblink. And since we are dealing ourselves some damage, so I figured I can slot in Immortal Call over here. Of course, you can always do it on automation as well. Not sure which is better. This is 528 damage, so that's like 5 casts. So, you know, there's 3-second cooldown, so I don't know. this is probably fine, but you can also do steel skin if you want to with automation. But of course, that means that you're gonna have to have your strength, ideally at 155. So, it's up to you how you set this up, but this is sort of the idea, right? But yeah, I think this is about it. Here's Ire, very strong item early on. Later on, if you want, you can go for a double influenced Hunter and whatever else. Even Warlord if you want, like Warlord for mana costs, for example. And, get a little bit more damage that way because you can get some more base crit, right? For gloves, some spell suppression, you don't really need much because Hero's Ire gives a lot, but before Hero's Ire, you're gonna need to, have some decent spell suppress. You do want a double reserve helmet for this. You do want some mana, and because we're shooting pretty fast, so ideally you want at least enough for 2 casts. So in this case, I have almost enough for 3 with a little bit of mana regen that I have. Should be 3 casts before I run out of mana, and Leech will top us up. So ideally you want at least enough for 2 casts. If you don't want to do sovereignty, you're gonna need to get like a 5% jewel in here, which can be a little bit rough. 5% reserve jewel. And of course, tamings, use them, don't use them, it's up to you. This is the only mandatory item in here. Here's Iris damage. Here's truth is also good, of course. And of course, you can also corrupt them, anoint them, not anoint, yeah, catalyst them, right? Same goes for rings as well. So, there's plenty of room to grow. Since we are not playing Deadeye and we don't get +2 projectiles, so getting a quiver with plus arrow is sort of mandatory. These are the sort of ideal mods that you can get over here, right? With well, I have a craft mod over here because realistically you're probably not gonna get all 6 mods with the higher tiers, right? But these are the items that you should be aiming for. This can also be fizz only, like full fizz, but generally this tends to be a little bit more damage. Well, unless we're talking about super min-max mirror tier bows, right? And of course, if you can get projectiles, but again, that's expensive. So this is sort of, mid-game, couple of days in gear that you should be aiming for, right? But yep, this is the build. If you guys want to blast some tornado shot, this is the build. At least that's what I'll be playing. So, and I mean, it should be fine. Of course, this is single projectile. Combined projectiles is a little bit more, and the damage varies from time to time, depending on how close you shoot all the tornadoes, right? But yeah, this is the build, and go blast the maps with this. And that's it for today. I'll talk with you guys later. Bye bye.